All right, so in this episode of Haw Talk, we have another school board meeting for November 20th, 2024, and I have in here with me Darren Seaman, superintendent and principal. Thank you very much for coming in and talking with us again.
Thanks, Joel. It's another exciting recap of a school board meeting.
Yes, it is.
So get your coffee ready, folks. It's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one. Yeah. So, I have all my notes here from all the minutes and all that stuff. You know, we do the call to order, approval minutes and all that stuff. A note, we're working all the way down to miscellaneous business just to get this off and rolling here.
You bet.
So we have superintendent and secondary principal report. Let's start with the facilities update. What do I need to know?
You bet. You know, outside, if you come up by the school here, Mr. Perel has finished that cement work that we've done on the, of course, the parking lots have all been done on the south side, right? We had Fink up here with putting in some stuff there as well.
Sorry. Yep.
And then we moved across the street. We did some sidewalks and retaining walls on the south side of the high school part of the building. Of course, with winter coming, we were able to get the cement part of that project done, so that was nice.
Absolutely nice.
Hopefully, in the very near future, we'll be able to continue to move east on the south side of the building to take care of the cement on that, and then we would move over to the big gym side of the campus. So, but no, check that out. It looks good. They did a really, really good job.
I really like the wall, how they did the wall, how that continues on. That looks really, really cool.
It does. The building was built in 1967. There hasn't been anything that's grown there but weeds. You know, and it's like, okay, what are we doing here? You know, let's carry this nice retaining wall up. We've got a nice level. It matches the levelness of the actual building itself, and kind of sets it off and looks good. Yep. We'll fill in with some dirt, of course, and hopefully we'll get some moisture to help tamp that down over the winter and the early spring, and then early next summer we'll be doing some rock work and things in there to beautify that as well. Very cool. We do have some electrical that's going to be going in through Dross Electric. We have some light poles for on the sidewalk that'll brighten up the campus in the evening when we have kids coming home from competition and things like that. Of course, it'll make it easier too for people that are trying to come to our lap swim and different things at the pool. It gets dark up here at night, so it'll add a sense of safety, and I think it'll actually add a little ambiance to the campus a little bit.
Maybe a little coziness.
Maybe give you a little bit of that college feel or something like that. Yeah, you know,
absolutely.
That campus. So and then, of course, we'll be finishing up the pool deck and all that good stuff, too, with the new fencing. So
gotcha. So then that kind of closes up facilities updates. Plumbing. We got some plumbing stuff. What's going on?
Plumbing. I mean, of course, you know, we got 1950 editions and 56 editions and all this good stuff. And the plumbing... A lot of the plumbing, it's kind of funny. You know, the original school building is no longer there. It's been tore down after the fire in '83 or whatever it was. Yep. And however, some of the sewer lines out of that building are still being used because these additions were tapped into that sewer line.
They were tied together.
Yeah, they were tied together. Okay. It's interesting. The heating lines were tied together, so we're still using it even on the playground. Some of that original infrastructure is still in use today.
Oh, wow.
But what we're having is anyone that's been up, like, especially during the wrestling tournament, because we have such a nice turnout from the community and the towns that come with parents and stuff like that. The last couple of years, we've had some problems in the girls' restroom. So what we're trying to figure out is that, you know, was it because of just so much use, or do we actually have problems in the line? Where it goes from a 4-inch sewer to 5-inch to 6-inch sewer. So Lynn Heath is helping us with that. He's being our liaison, so to speak. And, you know, I'm not a plumber. So I love the fact that he's willing to come up and say, let's take a look here. Right. And kind of be our guiding light here to make sure that we're not getting taken advantage of. And things like that, and keep everybody on the up and up. So
okay, and I'm guessing he's involved with this. Videos of plumbing systems have been requested for documentation, correct?
Yep. Okay. Rather than just going in and tearing things out, we want to run a video down and kind of see a camera down there, and do we have a junction problem where the pipes meet, and is it a simple fix, or are we actually looking at we're going to have like some serious sewer, bring in the back hose and that.
And I mean, with it being built back when,
well, it's 1950. Luco, check that. I may be wrong. 1950, I believe. So it's the big gym in that lower elementary. I think it was 50 or 52, something like that.
Okay.
So that's the area that we're looking at for that.
Okay. Awesome. So then that moves on to insurance and maintenance. We got a couple guys here on this.
Yeah, Travelers Insurance came down. They come every 2 years to inspect the boiler. So they came down, checked some things out. Of course, safety measures and things are changing all the time. So we have two of our propane. It isn't the meter, but we have two spots on the propane line.
Yep.
That needs a safety valve put in. So Burn Boiler, the company that put them in, they've already been on campus. They've measured, so they'll be coming back with the parts to fix that. I got to tell you what, that I can't say enough about Keith Van Horn and Burn Boiler. They've been absolutely awesome to work with putting in these new boiler systems we have. Mm-hmm. I mean, anytime I have a question or concern, I call and he answers right away. And he's been really great to work with. So,
good.
Other than that, we have these brownouts in Hettinger. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, so be it. But what we're seeing is it does mess with some of our electronics with our heating system, whether it's a thermostat or a control system, where we have to go back in and reprogram a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're having issues with that. And one of the companies that's involved with our computer programming of it is pretty much telling us, hey, some of your electronic components are coming to end of life.
So hence creating some of these issues.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
It coming to end of life. And of course, not everybody's like Zenith and RCA, and build a strong enough product that lasts for 40 years. Hence the company goes bankrupt. These things they're meant to last 10 years. So if you get 12, 13 out of them, it's like, hey, we got you, company.
Yeah.
But the company has already changed the technology. So they're pretty much like, we got some backup parts, but
you're
that's
looking
only,
at something else.
that's only going to be a Band-Aid. You're probably going to have to start looking at, what are you going to replace your electronic components with?
Absolutely. And I'm sure this is kind of something you're probably seeing not only in this specific area, but probably across the building as a whole,
Yeah, I'd like to talk to my tech coordinator about that and see, I think he sees that quite a bit.
Yeah.
He'd have an opinion on that, I think, too.
He might have a little bit of an opinion on that, but yeah, I think that's something that it seems like I'm sure older schools have to just kind of work with and deal with to keep things running, and it's just kind of part of that process. So,
it is. Yep. And I mean, anybody that's a homeowner or whatever, I mean, you go through that. I mean, the old Hot Point fridge lasted for 40 years, and the new one, I'm not going to say a name because I don't want to get sued or anything, but the new one, if you get 5-8 years, it seems like, hey. Yeah, boy, you're ahead money on that one.
You're doing all right.
Mine lasted 4.
So we're just in that cycling process and working and being on top of it. I think that's the big thing to pull out is like ever since I've come here, and I've said this many times, my first couple of years here, I saw some changes, but boy, in the last, I'd say 4, maybe 5, 6 years, I mean, there's been just a lot of good work being done to try to keep this thing up and going and running well.
Yep. It's a good building. It's got good bones. We do a lot of good things up here. So you got to put some money back into that infrastructure. Otherwise, the deferred maintenance list gets to where you cannot keep up with it.
Yeah.
And you can't keep on kicking it and saying, well, we'll do that in the summer, because the summer list never gets completed. Mm-hmm. So you got to continue to do those things. And obviously we want to try to get as much data as we can so we can make fiscal responsible decisions for the next 5-10 years, and not put ourselves in a situation to where we weren't already trying to save for it, right? Yeah. You can't always rely on grants and all this stuff. It's I was listening to a deal the other night, and there's a grant we can get for that. It's like, yeah, you and 10,000 other people are saying the same thing, buddy. Yeah. So we need to we have to take in all this input, all this data. Mm-hmm. And then process it, and then compare it to our strategic plan.
Yes.
Right. Where does it list in our priorities? Is it a needs or is it a want? Right. And then even when it's a need, it doesn't mean that we're able to do it right now, but it might be 18 months from now. It might be 48 months from now. Right.
Yep. And speaking of strategic plan, that's a great way to segue into our next section, future planning, which was talked about at the board meeting. Curriculum committee need to get together for planning for the business class program for the 2025-26 school year. Jump into that.
So, I mean, ultimately, Mr. Fordall was our business teacher. He is still teaching some of those classes. I am teaching one of those classes. Mr. Tim is teaching one of those classes. we need to decide what is our business program going to look like moving forward, right? Our business / FBLA. Mr. Fordall is our business manager. When things get squared away there, are we going to be in a situation to where he has time to teach a class or two? It wasn't necessarily a full-time program currently. We have a lot of offerings that we do. We're lucky to be able to do that for the size of school that we are. But it was the need wasn't necessarily a full-time need, and it hasn't been a full-time need for a long time. That can change, and that's the scary thing, right? I mean, you have a class come through or a group of kids come through that is very interested in those things, and you have 10 kids that want to really dive into it. It's like, hey, that's a pretty important thing, right? It's good numbers. We want to support that.
Yep.
So you don't want to marginalize it and then put yourself in a position where you can't make the need or meet the need. So we just need to start having those discussions and saying, okay, what do we possibly see this looking like? Who or what type of qualifications do people need to have? Is this going to be a 1-person gig, a 2-person gig, a 3-person gig, where everyone's kind of chomping off a bite of it, so we can still keep it, but it's evolving. Yeah. So ultimately, we don't know what it's going to be yet.
But you're talking about it.
But we got to talk about it. Yeah, I mean, we're coming up on 17 days left in the first semester for school contact days. We got to get on this because we're coming into a negotiation year. It's a legislative year. So we need to have our ducks in a row so we can look at this and say, hey, if there's discussions we need to have locally or at the state level, we're ready to rock and roll those things. So
absolutely. Moving on to the next section, obtaining quotes for new lighting for the football field underneath the future plan.
Yeah, so that's just, again, we have Musco was in town the other day. They were doing some other things with some other entities in the community, which I think is awesome on those entities' part. Obviously, they're trying to update infrastructure too, which I think we need to do, right? I mean, if you want to draw people to town, you can't have, not everybody wants to play on a, 1945, field or something like that.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to choose my words. It's like, I don't, anyway.
Yeah.
Not everybody's antique like you and I are. Right? So anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean we're going to do anything with the lights. We're just again, evaluating. That's right. I mean, we're trying to evaluate things. We, the last time we had bids on the lights, I think was 5-6 years ago as a district. So we're looking at it and saying, okay, what's the prices? Where are we at? No different than on here. We have a locker replacement estimate from a company, the lockers all the lockers in the building are I would assume original, besides the lockers in the locker rooms down by the swimming pool and the little gym.
Yep.
Those have been replaced. I mean, the lockers in the hallway, those are original 1967 to the high school.
Yep.
There's 5 different combinations that it can have. I mean, like I've told you, Mr. Tim one day went to his locker he had in high school and he put it in the combo and it worked. It's like, okay, you had a 1 in 5 chance of doing that. But anyway, they're tiny, they're small.
Yep.
What would it cost?
They've been getting used.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you guys are just looking at that too as well. Elementary principal report. Anything you want to quick go through on that?
Hey, a couple things I do want to point out from both of our reports is we're coming up on our music concert time of the year. So again, on my report, I had the date. These are the minutes from there, so that's not necessarily in there. I believe junior high and high school is on the 16th. It's that last Monday before we get out for Christmas break. Off the top of my head, Joe, I do not remember when the elementary one is. I want to say like the 11th or something like that. Please check our website, folks. Go to our school calendar on our website. That thing is awesome. But we have those concerts coming up. Those are open to the public. I do know that our high school one is also on the Chamber's Christmas calendar that they put out.
Yep.
So please come up, check it out. These kids are phenomenal across the board. The elementary concert is always a pleaser. It's always a time to get a smile on your face and watch those little tykes do their stuff. And then the upper elementary are very talented. And I'm telling you, man, for the last 17 years going to that junior high and high school one, you go there and it's predominantly parents.
Yeah.
And it's like there are so many music-loving people in this town that aren't there, and it's like you are missing out.
Well, not only that, but just holidays alone. I mean, if you want to get those holiday vibes, go to a concert.
Totally.
It's sitting right there for you.
Yep. Yep. And of course, we do it again in the spring too.
Yep.
But these kids are talented, man. I mean, these are kids that are competing and they're starring, and I mean, that's the equivalent of a state championship, for crying out loud. And they're doing solo performances and choir and band, and it's like, man, come and hang out with us for the evening.
Yep.
You won't regret it.
Yep. So that covers that. Let's move into school meals for elementary principal report.
You bet. We had the big Thanksgiving meal the other day, served roughly 320 meals. We had some board members come in. I believe Mr. Kilzer and Mr. Yonner and Mrs. Clausen were helping serve. I know the sheriff's department had some representatives in there helping serve too, and we had some parents come up and enjoy that turkey meal. Okay. So that was really good there. Just some other things we're always looking at, trying to see how we can get locally sourced products into the cafeteria. Mr. Erickson and his crew, that's on his side. That's part of his portfolio. Excuse me, does a good job of trying to include as much local, or at least researching it all the time, right? And comparing it to what regulations we have to follow and things like that. So when we can, we try to do that. And we think that we do have local people that have stepped up when that opportunity's been there. So they did get the fruit and veggie grant, so that's pretty awesome too. That's about a $10,000 a year grant. So like when we do the fruits and veggies, that's free.
Yep.
And then like when we do that for the snack, that's free as well. The fruit and veggies free. Again, that doesn't mean the whole snack is free, right? I mean,
but if it's fruit and veggies, then it qualifies.
Yep, you betcha.
So that's a great way to allow students to have healthy meals without having to cost them a little bit more.
You bet.
And then lunch balances is what it looks like.
It was just one of those deals, with the turnover in the business manager office. Some of those routine things that we would do early in the year, we weren't getting to because we were focusing on a few other things. Yep. So we sent out some letters that reminding families, hey, you do have some lunch balances that need to be brought back into the good. And even myself, it's like, oh yeah, I gotta get Max's lunch paid up. So it's just a good reminder that way you're not looking at a huge bill looking in the spring saying, oof.
And a good thing to do as parents is, just to bring up is look at Power School. You can see what your balance is as well, and you can keep on track of that. You don't have to wait for the school to contact you. You can actually keep an eye on that yourself.
Correct.
So so that kind of rounds out that athletic director's report. What do you want to cover on that?
We're into the winter sports. The boys, they had quite a bit of time off there, so that was kind of strange to see, But I know like the wrestling, they're rocking and rolling. Looks like there's 22 boys out, 3 girls. So they've started practice. The basketball programs are getting rocking and rolling and going. Junior high basketball is going. Volleyball ended up the year 7th at regionals. They came in 4th, so it's always awesome to finish higher than what you came in at. They had a great season. A lot of seniors graduating. We wish them well in their future with whatever they're doing. But they really had a successful year. A lot of tough teams, man. Class B, it was a buzzsaw, and it's interesting because I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I think like 4 or so of the teams that made it to state are going to be in Class A next year. So it tells you, man, it shows you that these girls were up against some tough teams, man. And
absolutely.
They did a really, really good job, and we're proud of them. And I do believe, I think it's this Sunday. I think this Sunday the Booster Club is having their fall sports.
It is this Sunday, yep.
Yep. So that'll be taking place too, where we get to get those kids together with their parents and have a meal and celebrate the great work that they did in the fall for us. So
okay. So that kind of covers that. Why don't we just move on down the list?
Yeah. So we got business manager's report. So Mr. Fordall put together some kind of a synopsis of what he's been working on with payroll, going through different things and whatnot, trying to get all of the deductions that staff and stuff have signed up for, whether they're choosing different gap plans and coverages and things of that nature, making sure everything's matching up to what it's actually supposed to be. And we're working through that. We're working through some CDs that are maturing here to see what we want to do with that. If we're just going to renew them and keep riding it out. So we had that kind of stuff. Some training. He's looking at some training moving forward that again, training is always good. We want to be lifelong professionals, lifelong learners, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
So there's already some training that he can go to. Sometimes, it's one of those things where there's a lot of hot topics still where we're trying to work through with that office.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the training probably needs to be put on hold a little bit to give him time just to continue to work through the things he's working through.
He's been so thorough with what he's been working on and been just relentless on getting caught up with what's going on and making sure that he thoroughly understands. He's been doing a fantastic job.
Correct. Does a great job in there. That's kind of all I have on that. I mean, it's just, again, it's one of those things to where I know currently when you're working with all those different vendors that we have our benefit packages through, it's a lot of hurry up and wait, and you're resetting passwords. The password doesn't work. It doesn't get you into the site that you need to get into.
A lot of extra little hoops.
Yeah, and you're calling, some of these vendors like Horace Mann, they don't even have a rep out here. So you're talking to somebody in Illinois, and it's like, why are we doing business here? It's like, I don't know.
Yep.
So we got some things to evaluate there as far as our bang for our buck that we're getting with those types of things.
And speaking of business manager reports, this is kind of related. In the next section underneath new business, maturing certificate of deposit CD. Why don't we quick go through that?
Yeah, we got a CD coming up at Dakota Western Bank actually, and looking at it this morning, it already auto renewed. It was a $20,000 CD up there. So just double checking and seeing, it's been there since like 2013. Of course, nobody in their current positions, administrative or board, were even here in those positions. I mean, I was a guidance counselor in 2013. I don't remember why that CD was put in there.
Gotcha.
So
just
actually,
staying on top of stuff.
Totally. So when we're done with this, actually, I'm going to walk up the hill and have a conversation and say, hey, what's been the action in that CD? What's try to get why is it there? What do we do with it moving forward?
Yep.
And then we have a couple others that'll be maturing. This board has done a great job over the last 18 months of taking money and investing into CDs because of the interest rates, right? I mean, investing in a 9-month CD, a 12-month CD, things of that nature. So I applaud their efforts in trying to take the money we have and trying to generate additional resources to help with the burdens of the financial of our budget. So again, it's just educating ourselves. Some of these things have been here because they're scholarship money, right? And it's like, okay, it's in our name, but it's there for scholarships, and we don't want to mess that up. Yep. We don't want to lose that. So a lot of it is just, again, double checking what CD is which, why is it there? What was it meant to do?
Okay. And then we have just a couple more items on here. We have transportation.
Yeah, so we had a transportation committee meeting. Ultimately, we do this. We evaluate bus routes and stuff on an as-needed basis, which is honestly, we're doing it at least 2-3 times a year. Our school district is not the county lines. It's a jigsaw puzzle along the borders and things like that. And as people move in, we're constantly evaluating, can we get a bus close to them? Can we get a bus that comes into them?
Trying to provide service.
Yeah, trying to provide services, right? The kids are in our school district. We want to try to help. I feel that we have the best school in the Southwest North Dakota. So I want your kids to come here.
Yep.
I want you to want your kids to come here. The problem is busing is not an easy problem to fix. The CDL requirements have gone up. Anyone that's involved in anything that requires a CDL, that. I'm preaching to the choir a little bit there. So a lot of schools are going to 14-passenger buses because you don't need a CDL. But the reality of it is this: we don't have a line of people that are willing to drive a bus. Whether it's a CDL or 14-passenger.
Yeah.
And I get it, right? I mean, you got to have a pretty special daily routine to be available. Yeah, to be available to, okay, I'm gonna leave town at 6:00 so I can get my first kid at 7 who's clear out, in the southeast corner or wherever in the county, and then do it all again at 2:30.
Yep.
So yeah, there's not a line of people saying choose me, pick me. So we might have the bus, but we may not have the driver.
Yep.
So it's not an easy topic
to work
find,
through.
Yeah, to find
absolutely. And you guys are just having those conversations, trying to figure out, like, what can we do?
Yep.
How can we get people in those buses? And speaking of those buses, it looks like you guys are exploring the idea of purchasing an additional bus.
Well, ultimately, we always have to keep our eyes open. I mean, we got to keep our eyes open for 14 passengers. Any bus, really, if it's a good deal. I mean, we want to keep our eyes open. I know I'm not a diesel guy. I know there's good engines and bad engines and all that kind of stuff. So, but we're going to actively, constantly be looking for, good deals on buses.
Gotcha.
Because they're hard to find. Buying a 14 passenger bus new is it's like $65,000 or more. They're more expensive than the big buses are, for crying out loud. So again, it's just actively keeping our eyes open for replacement buses, things of that nature. So we have a fleet. So we have a fleet, and then we got to, how do we get people? We got to have drivers for the fleet though too. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then you only have a couple more items in here, which is the co-op meeting and then the finance committee.
You bet. We met. We have a reconciliation of the fall sports meeting coming up. Nothing big there. We just review the numbers. We review, are there any changes we need to make with any of the sports tools? Do we need to change and go buy anything, whether it's for football or for volleyball, things of that nature. Review the numbers and then compare that to the co-op agreement to see what that means for the following year and all that good stuff. So,
And then the finance committee.
We're just taking a look at, again, the finances. We're constantly looking at those, making sure that things are coming out where they're supposed to be on the budget. Are the reserves where they're at? Start doing some projections. Like I said, we're coming into a negotiation year and a legislative year. What's the state aid formula going to be? So we can start to project and say, okay, are we going to have a surplus? Are we going to be in the, in the negatives? And then based upon those projections, what are some options and choices we have available moving forward?
Okay. All right, well, that pretty much wraps everything up. The next meeting is going to be on December 18th at 6 p.m. in the boardroom. And Darren, thank you again for coming in and sharing all this with us.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, Joel.
Absolutely. And thank you for tuning into this video. You can listen to our podcast anywhere that you listen to your podcasts, whether it be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or, of course, this YouTube channel. And have a great day.